Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to September's interval training. I'm Rebecca Campbell, Senior Director at Peloton. Thank you for joining today's training, which is all around creating a financial reporting studio report. The format for today is roughly 20 minutes of a demonstration by my colleague Madison Sadock, followed by a few minutes of Q&A. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone will be muted during the call and chat will be disabled, so please put your questions in the Q&A. We will monitor that thread and get to the questions after the demo. If you have additional questions or we weren't able to get to your question today, please feel free to reach out after the training. Also, if you have ideas for future trainings that you'd like to see, please let us know. Without further ado, let's get into the training. Over to you, Madison.
Thanks, Rebecca. So I'm going to be demonstrating for you guys today how to create an FR Studio report. I've been doing nothing but reporting for several years, so hopefully I'll be able to answer any questions you have at the end. If not, then we will absolutely find out the answers and get back to you with them. So this is the normal home screen that you see depending on what version of Oracle ERP you have. Everyone should have, no matter what version, a little hamburger navigator icon up in the upper left corner. So if you click this, we're going to get to FR Studio, which is Financial Reporting Studio. All the way down at the bottom, you should have others if you have access. And here's the Financial Reporting Center. Let me click that. There we go. All right. So this is your landing page for the Financial Reporting Center. You can access a lot of different reports from here. You have your recents, your favorites, and all. If you search for something and it's not coming up, make sure you're clicked on the All tab. Otherwise, anything you've recently accessed will be here. And then, of course, if you favorite something, which you can do just by clicking the star once you find it, it'll show up in your favorites list here as well. You can run all of your reports from here once they're already built. To build a report, though, in FR Studio, we have to go to an EPM workspace. That doesn't mean very much to most people, and that's okay. But for us, what that means is if you open something in the BI catalog and it says this must be opened in an EPM workspace, you want to go to the Financial Reporting Center. Then you're going to go to this little task if you're going to build a report, this task list, and you're going to say Open Workspace for Financial Reports. That opens up our EPM workspace. From here, we go to Tools, Launch Financial Reporting Web Studio, and that will be the environment that we that we build in. And this will probably take just a second. There we go. All right, if you're familiar with reporting at all, you can see over here it's kind of similar to the BI catalog. We have Casey.Brown, which is the user I'm logged in as, and we have shared. So this is essentially my folders in the BI catalog and the shared folders. Now the Casey.Brown or your user or my folders area is where you're going to want to save most things. Those are things that only you can see, only things you can access, and you're not going to be able to share it with anyone else. If you want to share something, it would be in the shared folder. The shared folder is where all of the assets that come out of the box with Oracle are stored. And it's also where, if you go to shared, and then to, if it will load for us, please, and then to custom, this is where all of your custom items are stored, is within this custom folder. And there will be a whole folder structure in there that matches what's in this shared folder as well. So we'll have financials, we'll have procurement, we'll have all kinds of things like that. Now, with us creating a new report, there we go. So there's all of our things. So we can see we've got financials, we've got human capital management, all of those. Most of the time, though, you're going to want to share, you're going to want to save in your folders if it's something you're just creating for yourself. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and click this little document with a star for a new document, and that creates a new report for us. We have 3 sections in every FR Studio report. We've got the header, the body, and the footer, just like you have in most documents. Where we're going to use everything today is going to be the body, but you could add items to the header and footer for whether that's actual text or maybe a page number, things like that. There are different things you can add there. To start off with, we're going to use the main part of an FR Studio report, which is a grid. So I'm going to click this little plus button next to body. and I'm going to hit grid. Most companies and clients are only going to have like one or two things here. This is a demo environment that I'm working in, so we have a lot. I'm going to use the US chart of accounts, but usually you're only going to have one, maybe two different different connections here. Um, and those those are data sources that connect to different cubes. So if you have multiple chart of accounts in your organization, things like that, that's why you would have multiple, but most are only going to have one. This is where we build our grid dimension layout. If you build it and it's wrong, you don't have to start over. You can change it later, and I'll show you how to do that on the main page. But for us, we are going to give ourselves some columns. For our column, we're going to do the accounting period. We're going to do scenario, and we are going to do amount type. Now, one of the cool, unique things about FR Studio is it's built on the Essbase cube, which means rather than just having columns like you do in most BI Publisher or OTBI reports, you also have rows. So on the row, we are going to put account. Now, what this means, you could also do pages. A lot of people, if they have multiple ledgers, will do a ledger on the page or company, and each page would be associated with that. But what this means is when we hit OK, and it builds the initial report, is essentially it's going to give you the intersection of data between these items. So we are going to start out by choosing the things that we think are going to stay the same throughout the report. I'm going to choose scenario. You just double click it. I'm going to drop down and I'm going to choose actual. You can see we've also got allocated, total for allocated, encumbrance, budget, EPM progress. We've got a lot of options here. It depends on your organization for what options you're going to have. Most will at least have actual, budget, and sometimes forecast. We're going to use actual today. So you can see I clicked the item I wanted and I clicked the arrow to add it to the selection. If it's in this list, it's selected. If it's not in this list, it's not selected. You also have to remove the automatic selection. I'm going to click OK, and you'll see it change on the screen to actual. We are also going to choose the amount type here, and I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to choose quarter to date. We do have base, period to date, quarter to date, and year to date. For this part, I'm going to choose quarter to date and hit OK. And now we need to choose the accounting period. The reason I left the accounting period for last, let me remove this one, is I want to do multiple accounting periods, and there's a trick to do that where I can do less work and less button clicks if I choose the other members first. So I'm going to click quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4 of 2022. And I'm going to place all 4 of these here. Now, if I wanted an aggregation of these, I could click OK now, and it would give me all of them in one column. However, that's not what I'm looking to do. So I'm going to reopen this by double clicking it. I have my 4, and there's a little checkbox down here that says place selections into separate columns. I'm going to hit OK, and it'll burst those out into 4 columns. And you can see we kept actual and quarter to date in each of them. Now, the cool thing about that is that I don't have to go through and click each of these individually and set them in 4 places. I only had to set them once. Now, I'd also like to add some year-to-date information. So I'm going to click on this gray, very last box here. I'm going to right-click, and I'm going to say Insert Column. I have the option of data, formula, or text. Data is like we have here. Formula would be if we wanted to do a formula, like maybe a sum. And then text would be a plain text column that you can type the data into that you're wanting to show, and it would be static. So I'm going to go to data. We can see it's just going to copy what I have here. So I'm going to go to this quarter to date. I'm going to remove quarter to date. I'm going to add in year to date and hit OK. And then I'm going to do the same thing I did with the last one. And I'm going to add in 2022. I want to do a year to date for each so I can see the values grow. So I need to add 1, 2, and 3. We already have 4 there. Now you can see they're not in order here. So what you can do is you can click the one you want to move, and you could move it down with these arrows up here. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Place selections in separate rows or in separate columns. Hit OK. And we have our 4 quarters with our year-to-date information. So at this point, we have all of our columns chosen. Quarters 1 through 4, actual quarter to date, and quarters 1 through 4, actual year to date. But we don't have an account chosen. So it's going to give us all data if we look at it right now. What we're going to do instead is we are going to double click account and we're going to choose the accounts that we want. So we are going to move this over here and we are going to choose, I'm going to drop this down. All right, so we have our total corporate account and we have assets, liabilities, owner's equity, and net income for the current year. I'm going to move these all over here and I'm going to place these into separate rows. All right, so that's going to burst and give us separate rows there now. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this because I've realized I haven't saved yet. And one thing about FR Studio that you'll learn very quickly is that it loves to lose work for you, which is the least favorite thing. Now, one thing you can do, because FR Studio is going to time out. One problem with it is this window is not an active window within Oracle. It's actually a separate workspace. While it's connected, it doesn't keep your session active. If you switch back to here, if you refresh this page, this will keep you logged in and keep you active in the system so that you don't lose your work as easily. So every once in a while, just flip over to that other screen, refresh, and make sure that you keep that active. And then regularly, of course, hit the save button. It does not auto-save in here at all. All right, so we've got all of our corporate accounts there. We've saved. What does this look like so far? We can click this little HTML preview button, which looks like a globe, and it will give us a preview of the report at its current state. So you can see we've got some data here. It's not the prettiest, but we have data. We do have this little #0 on here, which means that everything's 0, which doesn't look great. Nothing's organized well, like on formatting, but we have data there and it looks good, good data. You can also see on our year to date, our first quarter and our year to date will match, but then it's going to be an addition of each of these. So we know that our year to date is working. What you might notice too is we also have a POV up here, a point of view up here. You can change your point of view up here by clicking the various options and choosing what you want to see here. So if you didn't want to see the company 101, you could change it to, 100 North America and see the overview there, and it'll refresh your data as well. And these are all of the items that we didn't select to have in our grid. I'm going to go ahead and X out of this. We still have our report here. And we are going to do a couple of different things here. First of all, let's go on here, and we know there's a lot more data in here. If I click, oh, sorry, I got lost for a second. If I click these, then I can, first of all, do these basic options, and I can suppress items if there's 0, if they're missing, if there's an error for the entire line. Here, which means we're probably going to lose this 0 account here, this line. Another thing we can do is if we click the individual accounts, we have an option to allow expansion. That means we can now drill down into these different account lines and see the children of these account lines. Another nice thing that we can do is we can also have formulas like I talked about earlier. So I'm going to do this on the row level. I'm going to click this last row that doesn't have a number on it. I'm going to do insert row and I'm going to say insert formula. On here, if I click the entire row, I can click this sum button. And then in here, I can say row, and then it's a square bracket and the row number. So 1, comma, row, square bracket 2, comma, row, square bracket 3, comma, and row, square bracket 4. And that will give me this total of this row. And you have to click the checkbox if there's a problem with it. So let's say I left out this. It'll tell you that there's an error. But if you click it and you get nothing, it's all correct. Now, if I did this right now, it would tell me some row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. That's not the best way to say. So I'm going to change this over here to custom heading and say total. Great. All right. Now, lastly, we're going to do a little bit of formatting. So we're going to do this total, and I'm going to go up to this format button right here. And we can change our font, we can change our borders, we can change all different kinds of stuff here. I'm going to make this bold. And then I'm also going to put a bold line, let's do this bold line, up at the top to show that it's a total of those above it. And hit apply. And hit OK. I'm also going to take all of these items, and right here at the top, I can center them without having to go there, and I can make it bold. And then I'm going to make these bold because they're all headings as well, so that we can say this is the data. Now, additionally, I can take all of these numbers. I can go here, we can go to number, and we can change this to have the negatives in parentheses or whatever you want. You can display it in red, change your prefix. We can scale our values over here. So by 1%, tens, thousands, all of those. We also have decimal places. I'm going to put 2 decimal places on here. And then I'm actually going to prefix with a currency here. I don't feel like that looks right. I'm going to put it inside of here. Sorry. Not an accountant. All right. And I'm going to hit apply and hit OK. So let's go ahead and really quick look at that. And you can see our values that are bold. We have these that we can now drill down into. We see that the third item is missing there because it was all zero, so it's suppressed now. We have all of our data there, and it looks much better. Still not perfect, but it looks good. I'm going to save this again. Now, there's a lot more formatting and stuff we could do, but today we don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to go back to this where we can see this report. I'm going to go to the body here, and I am going to put in text. This is how we are going to add our title. So I'm going to call this the year by quarter report. And I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to make it bold. And I can change the font. So I'm going to change to Lucida Sans. I can also change the size. Let's make it size 14 because it's a title. And then I'm going to keep this positioned left on here. Now over here, we also have some things that we can do. So first of all, we can name this. So we can name it header. You can insert functions into here, but again, that's a little advanced for today. You can change the shading. You can auto size, which is what we're going to keep this at. You can also add page breaks if you're adding things like maybe multiple pages that you want to have. And then you can decide where to put your item. So for us, we're going to put this left, and then vertically, we're going to put it relative. And we're going to save that. All right. And let's see what that looks like again. Oh, I don't like that. That's not what I wanted it to do. I'm going to go back to this total here. I want this to be underneath the header. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. So you can see I just dragged it and moved it to where we wanted it. And we still have all of our functions, our drilling, everything there as well. And that is our simple little FR report. Rebecca, I'm going to hand it back to you. I will get
Thank
our
you.
PowerPoint back up.
Excellent. Thank you, Madison. That was a great demonstration. We actually do have a question from the audience, if you don't mind. The question is, can you add charts? And if so, how do you do that? Would you mind demonstrating that?
Absolutely. Let me share my screen again real quick. All right, so we have our same item up here. So what we can do is we can go again to the body. I'm going to hit this plus, and there's a chart option here. So I'm going to hit chart, and it automatically chooses a bar chart here. Now the legend items, we're going to do columns. We're going to pick 5 here, and columns A, B, C, and D. Now what this is this is your data range. So I'm just doing 5. Row 5 is our total row. So I'm picking 5 for totals, but then I'm using our quarters that are quarter to dates instead of year to dates, because year to dates we know it's going to go up, 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 up. So quarter to date, we can compare the quarters across each other. Now we also have the option to format this chart and decide where we want our legend, if we want to include it, what the legend title is going to be, everything there, our axes, if we want to change the name of them, the appearance overall, our colors, everything here, right? We've got all kinds of options that we can do to format this. Now, one thing to note is this is not going to look like your final chart. It's just going to give you like the right colors and maybe the right location of the legend. It's not going to look like that, like your chart does. So that was a really simple way to create a chart. If I go back here where we can see everything, I can drag this underneath here, hit save. Let's check and see if that worked out the way we wanted it to. And there we go. We've got our different quarters here and what our totals are with our quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4 in each color. And like I said, we can add another header overall. We could add that this is the, quarter to date amount. We could add the quarter, like the legend name, things like that. But that's the easiest way to create a chart.
Perfect. Thank you, Madison. And thank you, everybody, for joining us today. That is the end of our time. I hope this training was valuable to you. And please keep an eye on your inbox for next month's training. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.